Nadine from Affordable Staff. I'm here having a chat with Ray Dibb from Switch Finance. Hey Ray, how are you going?
I'm good, Nadine. How are you?
Pretty well, thank you. Always good to
Thanks
chat.
for coming down to our office, our humble office, and visiting us.
I love your office space.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get into it. Why did you decide to outsource?
Why did I decide to outsource? A few reasons. Straight away, you think you're going to save money.
Yeah.
That's usually the first reason, which make you feel a little bit guilty saying that. But yeah, normally it's around cost. The other side of it is there's a lot of compliance in Australia when it comes to hiring people, and when you're in a growth phase in your business, you're a bit nervous taking on new staff member because you have to have them for life in this country. It's very hard to sack someone if you don't need them.
Yeah.
So I suppose it makes it a little less daunting to test the waters on how things go, adding another staff member when you're not financially or committed to them via Fair Work Australia laws and all that sort of stuff. So it gives you a bit of freedom to say, oh, well, that didn't really work, we don't need them, so we can let them go without any recourse on us.
Yeah,
that
so
was probably the initial
obligations.
reason. Yeah, the obligations, yeah.
Yeah, so well, you can manage the risk a little bit more if you can control whether you can let someone go if it's not working.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So why do you think that trust is an important factor in outsourcing?
Well, yeah, as we were discussing before, I think trust is an important factor in every facet of life. In our particular business, being finance for homes and businesses and whatnot, trust is probably the most important thing in our business. You're dealing with someone's most, I suppose, largest financial commitment they're ever going to make in their life.
Yeah.
You're dealing with very sensitive and personal information, dealing with people's stress, anxiety, and the only way you can build rapport with people is if they feel they trust you. So trust goes through our whole organisation, even to the support staff that order the valuations and everything. It's trust that they're going to do the right thing for the customer. The customer basically has implicit trust in us because we handle this whole transaction for them.
Yeah.
And it can be quite daunting. So yeah, massive trust is a massive thing in our business.
So yeah, trust would be really important in all business transactions for you, not just in the outsourcing space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But also, you want to know you're dealing with a company that's going to make sure your data is protected.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And some people would think if you're outsourcing that your data could be vulnerable. So it's important that you make sure you're dealing with someone that is going to make sure that they've got things in place to ensure that. And I know you guys are pretty big around security.
Yeah.
Because I did go over to your office and they were pretty strict.
Checked us out.
They were pretty strict. Yeah, I'll have to check you out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, why did you choose Affordable Staff in the first place?
Well, Affordable Staff was recommended by Chris at our aggregator, Connective, and that was a plus because you already have brokers using you that use our software, Mercury, and I thought that gave me a little bit of comfort. And I was also referred to another company by a Mortgage Choice franchisee at the same time. They're not as good as us, by the way, but anyway, he's a nice bloke, and I met with both companies, yourself and the other lady, and I just did the pros and cons, and you guys just come up better than them at the time, and so I thought, let's do it. And here we are.
Excellent.
I think 11 months later? January, I think I went over there.
Yeah, January 2019.
Yeah, coming back during COVID, I saw these people with masks on. I'm thinking, what's going on? So I don't watch the news. I never know what's going on. I rang my wife. I said, there's all these people wearing masks, even the Aussies. There's the Age people wearing masks. And she goes, yeah, it's because of the coronavirus. And I said, are you stupid?
Is that this year?
This was just when I was coming back from your office in Manila there at the airport.
No,
and I said, beer doesn't cause a virus.
No, that would have been, we've had face masks going for a while because of other viruses like the bird flu and things that. So people were already very conscious.
Everyone at the airport had a mask on except me. Anyway, go figure. I felt a bit out of it, but anyway.
That's all right. Well, do you think that outsourcing is taking jobs away from Australians?
I did initially. I tried this a few years back, and I was unsuccessful at it. But the company I used, they didn't specialise in our industry. I suppose that had a little bit to do with it as well. They were a fairly small company starting out. And after it failed, I sort of thought to myself, well, that serves yourself right, trying to be a scab and take jobs away from Australians. So then when I did need to increase my staff, I tried actually sourcing locally and I couldn't get anyone. I couldn't believe it. That's when I decided to try outsourcing again.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I don't believe so. Otherwise I would have been able to source someone locally.
Yeah.
But there's no one was really, I didn't have many applicants and the ones I had were atrocious. So I don't believe we are taking jobs away from Australians at all.
Do you think that maybe having the outsourced support mechanism in place has actually enabled you to hire more locally now?
It definitely helps because we've expanded our team locally while having Sid over there as well, and he's taken a load off. But we've also expanded the amount of brokers with our business as well. So it's enabled us to leverage.
Yeah.
You know, I sort of envisage down the track once our guy Sid over there is up to the task, he will then have his own trainee sitting next to him, and perhaps build a team over there, slowly but surely.
So it's enabled you to leverage, which is fantastic. But other than the leverage, what has outsourcing enabled you to do that maybe you didn't think you were able to do prior?
I suppose I didn't think having someone working remotely out of your office could be successful, or as successful as it sort of evolved to be.
Yeah.
But we sort of were pushed forward into the, I suppose, electronic and remote way of doing business during COVID. We were sort of doing that a little bit beforehand, but I'm certainly an expert. Oh no, I'm not an expert. I won't say expert, but I'm certainly a lot better at using Zoom and you know, we're creating videos when we do training with Sid over there. So we're building a bit of a library of videos on how to do things. So he'll always record, or I'll record and save it. So it's helped push me forward to using a little bit more technology that's available out there. You know, I wouldn't ever have thought I'd need a soft phone. So we had to learn up how to set up a soft phone on his computer using VoIP and all that sort of thing, and that's worked fine. And you know, he rings me on that phone, on the mobile, or in the office, and I think I'm in the office and the office number's ringing me. How's that up? And then I realise it's Sid over there because I've shut Zoom down. But it sort of pushed me forward a bit to using a little bit more technology and thinking outside the box on how to work with people that don't necessarily have to physically be in your office.
So more online communication.
But I'm by nature a very social person, so I do prefer the in-person type thing. But it feels like they're in your office anyway when they're on the big screen, so it's not too bad.
Well, how has your local team found working with an outsourced person?
Okay, I'll admit it was very challenging at the start, but going great now. You got to get over that hump and just getting used to a new way of doing things. You know, because Julie, my PA and the office manager, she's been doing this a very long time. So it was about her also adjusting to doing something totally different, totally new and out of her comfort zone. You know, she's used to training people that are sitting next to her. So I think she struggled a little bit with that, him not being there, but she's really good with it now, and she actually quite enjoys interacting with Sid, and I think he's not as scared of her anymore as he was, which is a good thing. It's
probably also helped Julie and your other team members to become more online as well and be able to work.
I think it has expanded their horizons a little bit. I think it has opened their minds up a bit as well. You know, initially people, oh, this is never going to work, you know, so they go into it, I think, a little bit closed-minded. And I'm the type of person that's a bit like yourself, very stubborn, if I say something's got to work, it's got to work, and we're not going to stop till it works. Simple as that. So I basically said, if this doesn't work, I'm shutting the business down. And that sort of got the message across.
Yeah. Wow, yeah. That's tenacious, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, you got to push hard. As I said, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Yeah. And some things worth doing, sometimes a little bit challenging. And you've got to get over that hump. And once you do, the rewards are there.
Yeah. So it's just maybe not immediate gratification that you get from something. You kind of have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to be able to see past that.
Yeah.
And that's working great. Like if we weren't in COVID, I would be flying Sid over to have our Christmas party with us here. Oh, but we can't do that, unfortunately. So next year, maybe next year. Maybe next year.
We'll bring your whole team over.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, from outsourcing, what kind of measurable or other type of results have you experienced?
As I said, I'm not much of a measurer, so to speak. Maybe I should be, I don't know, but I sort of measure with my own intuition, so to speak. And I know I'm not a woman, and I won't have the same intuition as a woman, but I've got pretty good intuition. And it's certainly helped us leverage our business. I sense there's been a load taken off when it comes to doing a lot of tasks that, the word mundane is probably not the right word, but there can be some repetitive tasks in there, and that can slow the office down, and Sid's helped take a lot of those away, such as ordering valuations, saving of supporting documents, which can be quite time consuming when people send you just a zip file of stuff all just jumbled in there together. It's not named or anything. Then you've got to go and divide them all up and name them. That can be very time consuming, and he's been really good and helpful with that. So it has definitely leveraged the business and helped our business grow. Yeah. So
it's actually helped your local team to have a bit more capacity.
Yeah. And it helps the brokers, obviously, by having that extra bit of support there as well.
Okay. Awesome. So what advice would you give to a mortgage broker or other person who's looking to do outsourcing now?
Well, first bit of advice, come and plug and play with Switch Finance and don't worry about the stress of dealing with all that. But if you still want to worry about the stress, then be patient, and definitely you've got to break things up into small bite-sized pieces. If you just try to teach a support staff everything that's involved, there's a lot of moving parts. You've seen our flow chart there, and that's only very just a part of it. It's more of a summary more than a detailed flow chart. So there's a lot of moving parts, and if you try to get them to do everything, do the whole process straight away, you'll lose them. So you've got to break it up into small bite-sized pieces, modules, get them expert in each one before you move them on. So they can eat, breathe and sleep that job, that task, then you add the next one on. So it might take a little bit longer, but you'll end up with a very robust staff member, and hopefully they won't leave you.
Well, hopefully they don't, and we're actually trying to keep that model in place, to have a long-term placement and for someone to grow and be promoted within your business. It's in everybody's best interest.
Well, you don't want to spend all that time training someone to have them then be poached or move on. So I know there's going to be a little bit of challenge in I suppose keeping someone interested and there for the long term. But I'm sure you got some ideas around that.
I always have ideas, and I'll love to help you with those.
Excellent.
So would you say that the recording of systems and processes from the videos in a documented process is quite important?
Well, so whenever we do a Zoom, when I'm teaching Sid something, or whether Julie's teaching him, he'll always record it, or I'll record it and save it as a little video, and we'll name it whatever it was about. And that's starting to build a bank of a library of different training videos that he can go to and look at if he needs to. He has, when he first started converting them into a written process. And I suppose that helps it sink sink in a bit better. We've probably been a little bit busy lately for him to do that, which is a good thing that we've been busy. But as I said, at the moment, he's doing 2 certain types of tasks, and we're getting him expert in those. So I don't think he needs to be turned into written tasks now, because he's just doing them all the time.
Yeah.
So it'll end up being muscle memory for him, basically, yeah.
And if you are looking at placing a second team member, that might actually be a good activity for a new person to do, breaking those videos down into a written process, because it will help them accelerate their learning curve.
Yeah, absolutely. They say when you write something, you remember it better than if you just read it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is Nadine from Affordable Staff, just signing off with Ray from Switch Finance.
Thank you.
Nadine from Affordable Staff, helping businesses build efficiency through outsourcing.